Speedway Report is produced and broadcast by the Zeus Radio Network for Racers Reunion Radio. Well, Daniel Ricciardo and Sebastian Bourdais offered a pair of magnificent drives. Mother Nature simply hates the world of outlaws, that's a fact. And the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series held another Monday matinee today, but I got to be careful what I say because of my co-host alongside me, Joe Carbon. Welcome to Speedway Report. Good to have you, my friend.
Pleasure to be here.
April 16th, 2018, we are live from the shores of Lake Norman in Race City, USA in Mooresville, North Carolina. As I said, alongside Joe Carbon, I am Patrick Reynolds. Joe, we're in Race City, USA, Mooresville, North Carolina. Why in the world are you joining me? What our audience is going, Joe Carbon's alongside Patrick? That's great, but there's a certain part of our audience going, all right, who's Joe Carbon? What racing love brings you in here? Or did I answer my own question with racing love brought you into the studio today?
Oh, well, all kinds. I mean, I'm a fan of anything with wheels and a motor, and it doesn't necessarily have to have a motor as long as it has wheels. So
okay, wheels, motor optional. That's good to know. He makes a living in the automotive industry as well. We're going to get to all that very shortly. Let's quick hit up our victory lane lap. I'm going to tell you who won what today. Now, for starters, I have to skip over today's matinee of the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series because Joe here DVR'd the race. He did not want me to give away the winner of it, which I have in my notes right above the margin, which you guys can't see, but I won't say who won it, so he doesn't know, but you all, look at your phones if you're tuning in tonight to find out who won the race this afternoon. Look at your phones or your computer. Let's go through everybody else, though. We'll start with Saturday's Xfinity Series race, the 300, won by Ryan Preece, former modified guy. Yeah, I'm signaling to Joe here because we are going to get into modifieds quite a bit tonight with his love and my background in modified. Ryan Preece won the Xfinity Series race. What did you think? Modified guy winning in the Xfinity Series race for Joe Gibbs Racing. Is that
Bristol?
Yeah, Bristol.
Not hard to fathom.
Not hard to fathom. Much reminiscent of some of the high banks up north. I'm thinking a little bit like Thompson, even though it's got like half the banking, but that's pretty stout. Also at Bristol, Tennessee, the NASCAR K&N Pro Series East Tour was there. Todd Gilliland won that race. Third generation boy out of California. I mean, I know he's from Sherrills Ford right up the road. I remember his grandfather racing out in California. Indy Cars ran one of their biggest races of the year, the Long Beach Grand Prix, won by Alexander Rossi. I'm going to give this one away for you. I know you DVR'd this one too. The Formula One race in China was won by Daniel Ricciardo. Sorry.
Thank God, it's about time.
I got more to say about him too. IMSA was the undercard at Long Beach on Saturday. Action Express with drivers Joao Barbosa and Felipe Albuquerque won on Saturday. Now, our friends on the dirt still struggling, but we'll tell you what we got on them. Lucas Oil Late Models ran Friday night in Chillicothe. I hope I pronounced that right. That is a brutal spelling of that out in Ohio. Bloomer, Scott Bloomquist won the feature Friday night. Here's where it goes downhill. Mother Nature hates dirt racers. Saturday in Brownstown, Indiana was rained out. Now, that is the Indiana Icebreaker scheduled for March. That was rained out, put to last Saturday. Got rained out again. These guys can't buy a brace.
Got to go to the rain tires.
You're halfway there with the dirt tires anyway on the late models. Anyway, the tour, Lucas Oil Late Model Tour, will be back at Brownstown for the Jackson 100 in September. The World of Outlaw Late Models, in Farmer City, Illinois, supposed to run the Illini 100, same as the Icebreaker, was rained out in March, pushed to last weekend, rained out again, canceled. Sucks for you, go home. World of Outlaw Sprint Cars, Friday night in Jacksonville, Illinois, Saturday in Hofstat, Indiana, rained out both again. And they were dates, Jacksonville date postponed to April, the Hofstat date postponed until June. USAC Midgets raced Friday night in Kokomo, Indiana. Tyler Courtney was the winner there. Saturday, guess who won? Mother Nature. Yeah, rained out again.
Starting to see a trend.
Yes, the Midwest has not been kind. And let's see, opening night in Grandview, Pennsylvania. You ever been to Grandview?
Mm-mm.
Grandview, Pennsylvania? Okay. Third Mile Dirt Track on the hill. I've been there. Cool place. Stuart Friesen won the Bruce Rogers Memorial, $7,500 for a Saturday night small block win. That kind of money you get paid out when you were racing Chargers at Riverhead? $7,500 for first place in the Chargers?
No,
Not
it's
even
three digits.
Okay. And finally, the Southern Modified Racing Series race Saturday night in Asheboro, North Carolina. Jeremy Gerstner and Tim Brown split the twin 50s. Now, Joe, you're my co-pilot tonight. We're going to move on from reading and listing stuff. I got stuff here. I want to talk about you. Our friends, as I told you off camera, this show has a pretty high following from the modified guys. And you and I connected with our love of modifieds and you who have raced at the Head. Riverhead, Long Island. Tell me about your experience racing at Riverhead.
My tires were a lot narrower, unfortunately. Would have loved to have been in a modified.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I literally go back to the 60s. I grew up in the summers each year, 2 weeks vacation in Wading River and Wildwood State Park. We'd go there. And as quick as my dad could get me out of the womb, he had me in the grandstands there at Riverhead watching the modifieds and the street stocks and all of that. And man, I'll tell you what, I grew up in an era where guys used to build their own 37 Chevys with big fat tires on three sides and that little skinny one that towed out to the left. Big blocks, side pipes, and then they graduated to the Pinto bodies the Vega bodies and the Gremlin bodies, but they were all they were built in somebody's backyard. It wasn't like you bought a Troyer chassis like you do now, and everything's the same. They were all different, and they were all handmade, and they were amazing. And the guys who drove them were just as amazing.
I grew up in the same era, probably a little. I first started going out in the 60s, but the 70s, and everything was hand-built. There was no such thing as a store-bought modified at that time yet. Everybody built their own, and the cars were identified. The body styles were right off what you would see in the showroom. A lot of those race cars began as cars either out of a junkyard or literally off the showroom floor, came out, got gutted, had cages put in them. Same era for you, sounds
Absolutely.
like. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So growing up at Riverhead, you're a big Long Island guy, such a history of Northeast short track racing and modified racing in Long Island. Do you have a favorite growing up? Who was your guy?
Oh God, I don't know if I necessarily had a favorite, but there were so many interesting racers out there. There was this one fella who drove in what was at times street stock class. He had a 55 Chevy, and I remember because he was stuck out like a sore thumb, the quintessential stock car racer of the short track era. Okay. White T-shirt, open faced helmet. Big burly guy had a pack of Marlboro rolled up in his shirt sleeve up here on the side, and you could see it because he would always put it on the right side where us in the stands could see him as he went by on the pace lap, getting ready to carry a green flag. So yeah, there was a lot of interesting names of cars like AOK Junior. I mean, we had just 711, and those are some of the real popular. It was kind of like they had the modified stock car versions of names you would see on drag cars, and people identified with them. But it was funny because back, I want to say, in the last couple of years, I happened to walk into SRI one day to buy some race gas, and I'm staring at this fellow who's sitting behind the counter, and his name says Jim Malone. And I'm like, seriously,
Everybody knows Jim down here.
Are you Jim Malone? Like Jim Malone Jr. of Corwitz Auto Body from Riverhead, Jim Malone? He goes, yeah, he smiles at me. I says, I used to watch your dad race, man. He was bad, dude. Awesome. And yeah, we kind of connected that way.
There are so many people down here in the Charlotte area that have a Northeast racing route tie. Somehow they got their start. They grew up around it and migrated to Charlotte like all of us do. What brought you from New York to the Charlotte area? We all have a story.
The same dream you just described, but only it never happened. I finally, I guess let's go back to where we just were. As a kid growing up, watching all these races at my home track, and I vowed someday that I would also race there. So in 1990, I finally made that a dream a reality. I ran in the Charger division at Riverhead for a year with the rusty turbishes, and everybody had Macbeth's engines that was spanking us all over the place. It's funny to go into Brooklyn Boys now. He's got his old New York license plate, Macbeth's up on the wall. A blast from the past.
I'm one of the guys that gets that. When I see it on the wall, the Macbeth's old New York license plate, Macbeth. I know what
exactly.
That is.
You know who that is. Yeah. So the very next year, you know, we 91 was the year of Desert Storm.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Desert Shield. Desert Shield.
They were within weeks of each other.
Okay. And as many of us know, the economy in Long Island just basically went whoo, and we were all trying to figure out how we were going to do this. And I had a former background as a driving instructor and crew chief for Skip Barber Racing School before I did race Riverhead. And I got to work with a lot of really cool older guys who had been around SCCA for many years. And they said, you know, go south, son. You can still make a living driving a race car based on your driving skills. And I bought that story. So I packed up all my stuff in the winter of 91 and headed down here with a U-Haul, pulling everything I owned, including my race car, in the back of it, and ended up at Concord Speedway. The Furs, who owned that track, were very, very wonderful people and helped me kind of get a place to start. But it took me about a year to figure out that basically what it all added up to is every time I went out on a job interview for a driving job, it said, "Great resume, Joe. How much money you bringing to the team?" So my hopes of that got dashed pretty quickly. But I think in retrospect, where I am today, I've ended up where I'm supposed to be.
Very relevant conversation, as we talked about a little bit before the show, and a lot of water cooler talk this morning and this afternoon of Ryan Preece's great win from the Xfinity Series on Saturday. In Joe Gibbs Racing Equipment. He's got 7 starts in the Xfinity Series for Gibbs. He's averaging better than a 4th place finish in his 7 starts. His next start for the team is not until July in Daytona. Why? Money. Ryan Preece, outstanding talent, good for the sponsors, good for the sport. Bottom line is somebody's got to pay for all this. I don't care if it's Jimmy Johnson, Kyle Busch, Jamie McMurray, Kyle Larson, doesn't matter. Somebody's got to write the check for all this. You felt that firsthand, what are we, 20, 30 years ago now. It's like, who knows how many capable race car drivers will never get their shot because they can't bring funding to the table. Did you ever have a shot? I mean, was there any chance at all that you took out a loan or knew somebody? Nothing. Any shot to bring money to the table? Okay,
so let me restate, and I may not quote it perfectly, but
we're not a show about that. Go for it.
Tony Stewart was quoted saying something fairly close to this once on a show. At any given time in this country, there are at least 100,000 or more drivers that are capable of running with us in the Cup Series that are just as good, but they will never, ever get the opportunity because they don't have the cash to bring to the table to get them in the door and get them a ride. So we'll never hear from them. I'd like to say that I'm at least one of those people who never got that opportunity. Right. I don't know if I'm as good as them, but who knows? I agree with Tony Stewart 100%. I heard a friend of mine say this when we were we were young. Another buddy of mine, racing buddy of mine, said, the greatest race car driver in this country is probably driving a milk truck up in Wisconsin. And he will never, ever get his shot, and no one will ever hear of them. But if you had to rank all these drivers, the best one could very well be at your local track on a Saturday night, but he will never get a shot at coming down here. Exactly.
It's a shame. I picture this as a college kid going to the NFL and saying, man, you did the great in the combine. How many of these suites up top are you going to buy for us so we can afford to have you on the team? It's kind of something similar. Yeah. It's just a shame that talent just won't get you where you need to go. It's a far cry of the sport, but unfortunately the truth hurts.
Absolutely.
Your career on the 4 wheels at Riverhead, most of your racing has actually been done with wheels about half that many then the 4 at Riverhead. Tell me about your experience with the bikes.
Well,
and we got time because I know this will take a little bit. So go ahead.
Okay.
I'll give you the floor.
Well, I grew up around a lot of two wheels as well. In my neighborhood, a lot of my friends raced motocross, and their families supported them and took them to the races. So I kind of grew up in the woods in New York around people like that. And but unfortunately, I was not allowed to get a motorcycle when I was a kid because my mom kind of put the kibosh on that. So that never happened. So when I was 24, I rebelled and went out and bought my own dirt bike. So that kind of started. I actually started racing bicycle motocross first, and because it was all within. It was in my financial ability.
Financial ability. There's that.
Well, there you go. That's why
relevant. It's totally relevant.
It's totally relevant. Had to race what I could afford to race. So, and as time that kind of came up, and I kind of went from bikes back to stock cars, and then probably 10 years later, actually went back to bikes again. As I kind of figured out I wasn't going to be able to make it as a big time NASCAR driver. Living here. And 96, I started racing locally here in North Carolina in a local Supercross Outlaw series. Did that for about 2 years until I broke my old frame for the third time and sat out a year. And then in 2000, bought a brand new KX 250 and started racing that Supercross series again. And I've been pretty much on that path ever since. Where cars were my first love, they've become my second love. Motocross is really my first.
So the bikes are really, it kind of evolved, I guess, from the cars to the bikes. You didn't start out as a bike guy.
No,
started out as a car guy.
Started out as a car guy.
Come to the bike. Because it's just, I guess, within your reach.
That's the bottom line. It's it's still to this day, we have a nice little mom and pop business, but the idea of what it costs to go race cars versus racing motocross, far more within our financial capabilities.
Let's talk about the business then. The big sponsor on the bike racing.
The big sponsor.
Tell me about Joe and Terry Carbon Enterprises and what you guys do for the folks around Lake Norman.
Good old-fashioned auto repair. We're known as GoFar, good old-fashioned auto repair.
How cool is that?
The guardian angels of automotive service. Want to know why? Check out our website by going to gofarguardianangels.com. I always like to say, if you want to know anything about us, go to our testimonial page and see what our customers have to say. But I do have to warn you all, make a pot of coffee because you're going to be there a long time. But that's the one that makes it, and then the racing spends it. So, but we try to keep all of that in balance.
Now, you provide a service with auto repair that I have not seen since I think I was a kid with my mom in the 70s, when we had the wood panel station wagon, and a guy would come up and pick the car up. Joe, it's 2018 and you're picking people's car ups to repair. Good old-fashioned auto repair. You're doing it like I remember when I was 7 years old and my mom's car would be in the shop.
I learned a lot from my dad growing up in the business. That was one of the things they did when I was a kid growing up. And a lot of what we are today, I credit to my dad. He taught me a lot of valuable lessons on things to do, like, just treat your customers like you want to be treated, make them part of your family. And I think most of our customers will consider themselves part of the GoFar family. And that's kind of what we try to give them a feeling of in everything we do, from the way we service them to the way we treat them, look out for their best interests.
Mm-hmm. We here are located near Charlotte, North Carolina on the East Coast. So I talked earlier on how all the Midwestern dirt tracks got rained out. The Bristol Cup race rained out yesterday, raced earlier today. The Chinese Formula One Grand Prix run actually live, but overnight Saturday in the early morning hours for us here on the West Coast. What is on Joe Carbon's DVR menu to get through this week? Tell me about your race viewing.
My.
What do you got? What do you got cooking?
I have a very, very thick DVR list this week.
Okay.
It's like crazy. Well, let's see. I have the Monster Energy Cup, which I'm only one main into, the 250s. So
he doesn't know who won, so shush.
Yeah,
shush.
I know Faulkner won. I know Faulkner won the first 250 main, so that's as far as I'm going. So, yeah, don't spoil it for me. I want to see it the rest of the week. I've got the latest Arena Cross taped. I have the results show from the NASCAR Bristol race, which I will look forward to seeing now that you've put that all out there and made me aware of it. I have the Formula One race.
I wrecked that for you already.
Yep.
You know who won.
I have the IndyCar race from Long
good.
Beach. I have the WeatherTech sports car from Long Beach, which I already now know who won that as well. Yeah, there's 6 motocross Jeep World GP races waiting for my viewing as well, because I love watching those guys. You know, since you're giving me such a great platform, let me say this, okay?
Oh boy.
Okay.
Should I be
Last
worried?
year, well, okay. Just watching. I watch us over here on this side of the pond, and now I'm watching these guys over on the other side of the pond. If anybody knows who this guy Jeffrey Hurlings is from the Netherlands, watch this guy. He came here last year, a week before the American GP, and ran in the last race of the Pro Outdoor Series. Came from the back of the pack and ran Tomac down, which is the fastest guy on the planet that we knew up to this point, and rode right by him. You could see steam coming out of Tomac's helmet as he went by. I have watched this guy come from behind in the first 3 GPs this year from 12 seconds back to run down Antonio Cairoli right at the very last minute. Pass him in 2 of the 3. This guy may be the new fastest guy on the planet. Watch out for this guy. Jeffrey Hurlings.
Commentary from Carbon. That's pretty good. I wrecked a bunch of the winners for you earlier in the show. Sorry about that. So I'm going to spoil a few more for you because I want to reference them for our audience members. About ready to wrap up and get out of here. Racing and Rockin' is coming up on Bill Pratt's Facebook page here at the top of the hour. Going to button this up shortly. And 2 moves. 1, the drive by Daniel Ricciardo in the Chinese Grand Prix. You're going to love that. You're going to love that. And everybody's talking about this one, the pass that Sebastian Bourdais made in the Long Beach Grand Prix. I've watched this replay a half a dozen times. I don't know how he makes this move stick, but he does. I've wrecked him for you. Look out for those 2. Watch the drive by Ricciardo and the pass by Bourdais. We're getting ready to button it up. Joe, thanks so much for joining me tonight. This was fun. Sit alongside a fellow modified guy.
Thanks for
guy
inviting
down
me
here in Charlotte. That's cool. I appreciate you coming on the show tonight. Well, everybody, in between our broadcasts, keep up on the world of auto racing with SpeedwayReport.com. That's my website. Did you know I had a website? I got a website, SpeedwayReport.com. This broadcast and all of our past shows are uploaded on the site. We have racing articles to read. Did you know I wrote stories?
There's lots of new things I'm learning about.
I'm a columnist too, yeah. So all this winter weather that will not let go of the country, grab yourself a podcast and some racing reading material on SpeedwayReport.com. Now, uploads of this broadcast and our past episodes, you and I were talking about this before the show. Here's the Rogues Gallery of where you can find me. On Facebook, I got the Speedway Report with Patrick Reynolds page, the Racers Reunion Facebook page. On Twitter, I've got at Speedway Report and at Speedway Pat. On racersreunion.com, this will be uploaded in the forum. As I told you, my website, speedwayreport.com. And if you are connected to me personally on Google+, LinkedIn, and my personal Facebook page, you can find copies of this show. I don't know what else I can do. Go watch my show. Go watch my show. Thank you to everyone on our Facebook Live feed for joining our conversation during the show tonight. We don't have time to actively participate while we're doing the show. I'll get to everybody tonight, though. After we go off the air, I'll come back and talk to you guys because I love chatting with you. Always a plug. I like this plug here. I say people go see a race at a track near you.
Absolutely.
Grassroots, ovals, drag strips, road courses, dirt pavement. I don't care. To me, they're the backbone of the sport. If Saturday night dies, Sunday afternoon dies. But if Sunday afternoon dies, Saturday night might still be alive and well anyway. So go see your local track. That's the best way to support the sport. And I want to thank all of the military, past and present, for the freedoms we enjoy as Americans in our daily life, including the simple things like bench racing right here on a Monday night. Freedom is not free, and a veteran paid that bill for us. To all of the men and women who are defending freedom and watching Speedway Report, take care of yourselves and come home soon. A special salute to the teachers, school staff, firefighters, police officers, and paramedics in our own communities. They are quiet and modest heroes every single day. God bless and thank you. You have been watching Speedway Report from the shores of Lake Norman in Race City, USA, Mooresville, North Carolina. Please like our Facebook page, Speedway Report with Patrick Reynolds, and follow me on Twitter at SpeedwayPat. On the Drag Racing List Facebook page next is Racing and Rockin' with Draglist.com. BP, JB, and BS, Barb loves her when I call her that, as they cover drag racing with some great music. We will be back next Monday, April 23rd. We'll be wrapping up NASCAR in Richmond, Indy cars in Birmingham, opening night in Bowman Gray Stadium, short tracks, and a whole lot more. Alongside Joe Carbon, take care of Trina's car tomorrow for me, buddy. Appreciate that.
Got it.
Thank you for joining us tonight, Joe, and I'll see you next time.